Hello Stampers, welcome to the craft room. I'm not sure about you, but I often have trouble trying to evenly space my brads when I'm adding them to my cards and paper crafting projects. So I'd like to show you a simple way to evenly space your brads using your paper piercing tool. So let's get started. For this project, you're going to need a paper piercing tool or something else that can actually do your paper piercing. So maybe a thumbtack or a push pin, a sewing needle or a sewing pin. Any of those things should be able to work. You're also going to need a soft foamy surface. This is Stampin' Up's Stampin' Pierce mat, which is a great surface for doing both your paper piercing and to use as a surface for your stamping. We're also going to be using this particular template, which comes as a part of the Essentials Paper Piercing Pack. This is one of 3 templates that comes with that pack, and this is the one that we'll be using. So if I wanted to place 3 equally spaced brads here at the bottom corner of this piece of cardstock, as I've done here, I could try to eyeball it and place those, but what would likely happen is that there'd be all kinds of irregular space in between my brads, that they wouldn't actually be lined up from the bottom of my cardstock, and that happens to me a lot. So the paper piercing template is actually a wonderful way to get those brads evenly spaced. So if I wanted to be working on this corner and I wanted my evenly spaced brads here, for our purposes I'm just going to rotate things so that everything is right side up as we're working together. And I'm actually just going to place this white piece of cardstock underneath here so that you can see this rich razzleberry cardstock much better underneath the template. Otherwise it's really hard to see against the foam background of the paper piercing mat. So I could use this dark grid line to line things up here and also along the left hand side of my cardstock if I wanted to go ahead and space my brads. Now if I pierced every single hole right here, this would be way too close together for these 1/8 of an inch brads. So I could choose here to pierce every other hole and that would give me spacing. Or I could come and line things up using this grid here. So this dark line and this dark line. Because on this part of the template, these holes are 1/8 of an inch apart. And on this part of the template, they're actually 1/4 of an inch apart. So I'm going to use the 1/4 inch part, and I'm just going to pierce 3 of these holes. This also means that my holes are going to be 1/4 of an inch in from this part of my cardstock and 1/4 of an inch in from the side. So I'm going to lift that up and turn that around, and now we have these 3 great holes that have already been pierced, and we just go ahead and add our brads to those holes. And then we'll just open the prongs and we'll have our nice evenly spaced brads on the bottom of our cardstock. And look at how nice that looks. Of course, if you're using larger brads, you may choose to not go every single hole. You may actually do every other hole, which would be fine. And again, depending on how large your brads are, you may decide if you're working from the corner of your cardstock to come in more than 1/4 of an inch to allow for the size of your brad. So you may actually start here 1/2 an inch in from both corners for your first brad and then go ahead and set them as far apart as you would like them. So you've got a lot of different choices using this particular template. Now the other thing that this is also good for is not just setting brads. So let's give you another little tip. I don't know about you, but I love using these adorable little self-adhesive rhinestones on my projects. And I find that sometimes it's hard to get those or my little adhesive pearls equally spaced. Well, this template is incredibly handy for that as well, because what you can do, and I'm just going to use this scrap piece of cardstock here for our purposes, is let's say I want to line up 3 of my little adhesive rhinestones here So I'm going to come in once again with my grid, and I'm going to use the inside one again, and I'm going to line up that top guideline and that left guideline with the edges of my cardstock. And then instead of using my paper piercing tool, I'm actually going to come in with a mechanical pencil. Mechanical pencils have really nice thin leads that fit beautifully in the holes of your paper piercing template. And so I'm just going to fill in the first hole, the third hole, and the fifth hole, because I actually want to space my little rhinestones out. And so you see that those are those drawn holes. And then what I could do is come in and I could actually adhere my rhinestones down right onto the center of those little marks. So there you have it, a really easy way to use your paper piercing tool or even a mechanical pencil along with your Essentials Paper Piercing Pack template to be able to evenly space your brads or your adhesive rhinestones or pearls. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon here in the craft room.